Hey everybody, I'm going to do some graphing problems now. Let's go ahead and start with A. The very first thing I do when I am working on one of these graphing problems is I try to figure out what the period is. So to do that, with y equals 3 sine of x, 3 sine of 2x, I take the coefficient on the x term. Whatever the coefficient on the x term is, I use that value and I take the normal period of the function, which is 2 pi. For any sine and cosine function, the normal period is 2 pi. And then I divide it by the coefficient of the x term. So 2 pi divided by 2, my 2's would cancel and I would be left with pi. So that tells me if I get out to the angle pi, I should have done a full cycle by that point. Now remember, when we're graphing these functions, we're looking at these 4 key points right there, because those are the nicest values. Those are the extreme values that we can plot. And there are 4 of them. So between 0 and pi, I should split up 4 equal sections and label them with the appropriate angles. Now, let's go ahead and say, if I split this in half, if I've gone halfway to that 4, I've gone 2. What's half of pi? Well, half of pi is pi divided by 2. Well, if I've gone halfway there, what's half of pi over 2? It is pi over 4. I'm increasing by a power of 2 in the bottom. I'm multiplying by 2 in the denominator. And then I can count 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. So I am graphing a sine graph. Sine starts at the value of 0. And I know that because on the unit circle, this first point here is 0, 1, and sine is the y value. But I totally just wrote that down backwards because I'm silly. 1, 0, right? The x value at that point is 1, the y value is 0 because it is on the x-axis. So sine's first value is 0. And then what does sine do? Sine runs through its cycle going from maximum back to middle, down to minimum, back up to its middle. Now, what else do we have with this function? I have this 3 right there. That is affecting the amplitude of this graph, meaning it's going to go to positive 3 and negative 3. Its midline is on the x-axis because I have not shifted it up or down at all. So now I can kind of sketch in my sine curve. We're not perfect here, but we're doing the best we can, like that, and there we go. And I see a full cycle between 0 and pi. Now what I want you to think about is, imagine I then did another full cycle and went all the way out to 2 pi. Well, 1 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, counting by 2 pi over 4 is there. If I continue this, it's going to repeat that same cycle, up, middle, down, middle, right? It's going to continue to go through its cycle like that forever. So, one thing we can look at. So what I like to notice about this, I don't remember where I left that sentence off. It's been like 10 minutes since I paused it. But what I like to notice is that in that normal interval of 0 to 2 pi, I see that my graph has done 2 full cycles. And I like that because I see the 2 as that coefficient right there. That 2 is telling me between 0 and 2 pi, I should complete 2 full laps around the unit circle. So the problem also asks you to state the frequency. And what is the frequency of a trig graph? Well, the frequency is just the reciprocal of the period. So if the period is pi, then the frequency is 1 over pi, just like that. And there we have our first graph.